podcast, skills contingency options. CQB, CQC, MSD, and all forms of close combat strategies must include contingency options for all likelihoods, including Murphy's Law situations. Without belt-around strategies and diverse contingency options, objective achievement may not be able to be achieved or not as quickly and safely. In both armed and unarmed combat and military self-defense, all skills must include contingency options as part of the setup, initiation, and execution of the specific skill in relation to changes in threat and situation. Understanding that when two combatants are involved in an actions on, they are going to do everything they can to defeat their enemy, and as such, this may require prolonged actions on and the need for threat and situational specific contingency options to maintain or regain the upper hand. For Phase 1 basic CQC and MSD, contingency options include long and close range continuance. After a long or close range unarmed defensive assault skill has been employed and the enemy has retreated, by fast mapping assessment and decision making at real time on the move, a long range unarmed defensive assault stamp kick continuation can be added, or close range unarmed defensive assault striking combinations. Importantly, continuance or continuation skills must be seamless, fluid actions that fit with the primary initiated long-range stamp kicking or close-range striking unarmed defensive assault skill, sharing cohesive commonality by being same system skill set. This is important to reduce the time lapse between the failed primary skill and the added continuation skill. Whether it be primary unarmed defensive assault or continuation skills, it comes down to range, skill, commitment. Enemy orientation is another important contingency option, as if the enemy does not backpedal, they may well move off the confrontation line, and as such, the combatant must fast map assess on the move and orientate to the enemy and continue with hostilities with minimum time lapse and certainly never stalling. Enemy orientation can be in a side stance and guard or front stance and guard, depending on situation, the primary employed skill, and the decided continuation skill. Grabs and holds prevention are important contingency options if a primary unarmed defensive assault skill has failed and the enemy attempts to grab or seize you. Identifying such a threat and employing grabs or holds prevention at real time is the difference between preventing being seized and secured and having to escape a secure grab or hold. There are contingency options for every category of threat and some for individual specific threats. As far as unarmed defensive assault actions on go, often the first contingency required option is when making range, stalking into range or using deception to close on the enemy, and when you become compromised, the primary requirement is a stalking contingency to stop an enemy in their tracks that engages you when you're closing distance. Time and distance will often make the decision for you in regard to what contingency option you can employ, as in employing a stationary stamp kick counteraction or a stationary evasive counteraction. Contingency options include prevention of an enemy drawing a weapon or the disarming, disabling, and disposing of the weapon threat. Hard boots, stationary combating of kicks is a primary means of static prevention of enemy kicks by stamp kicking incapacitation. Combating a kick with a stamp kick to either the kicking leg or the stability leg of the enemy. Contingency options include body-to-body seizure and securing of the enemy by CQC means, and simultaneously employment of foul methods of threat neutralization by incapacitation or for the battlefield enemy elimination, including on seizing and securing an enemy combatant, the drawing and employment of a weapon for threat neutralization. When seized or secured and being pushed, pulled, or lifted, understanding how to employ resistance and yielding combined with simultaneous threat neutralization are very important contingency options. Contingency options also are included in ground combat, especially at a basic level for hard boots, footing recovery, or ground protection and hard boots, footing recovery. The reality of closing distance on the enemy as part of the employment of long-range unarmed defensive assault or close-range unarmed defensive assault often means up against a formidable foe, the requirement at point-blank body contact range for stationary attack combinations to ravage the enemy to achieve incapacitation, targeting exposed or available soft targets. In training, we ensure all our exponents know exactly what to do under threat or when initiating actions on, both offensively and counteroffensively, in relation to range, threat, and situational specifics, and the employment of best tradecraft practice contingency options to achieve the objective of threat neutralization. Examples include the decision to use close-range unarmed defensive assault striking skills and the enemy retreats backwards, making your finishing skill miss the target, and the range dictates closing with a long-range stamp kick continuance to achieve threat neutralization. Or the combatant has decided on a long-range stamp kick employment and the enemy moves just outside the stamp kick range and is in striking range, so the combatant fast map assesses and adds on close-range striking continuance to achieve threat neutralization. It is important in the execution of continuation or continuance that after a failed primary unarmed defensive assault option that the combatant does not stay front on for longer than necessary, because if they do, they are offering multiple targets. With the contingencies offering front on to side on, continuance or continuation, their major vitals under continuance are turned away from the enemy and as such are more safeguarded. The same contingency options employed under unarmed defensive assault can be employed from statically from front, side or rear flanks or under unarmed counteroffensive assault, as they all come from the same system, share commonality and are cohesive. The same contingency options employed to support primary offensive or counteroffensive assault actions are employed for secondary, alternative, or emergency options executions, and as they are same system, they fit seamlessly with the contingency options. It very much comes down to a skill having a belt-around strategy that includes contingency options to deal with wide-ranging threats and changes in threats, including change in situation, as in if a combatant is decentralized or their stability is compromised, possibly because of terrain, having contingencies to prevent or deal with such realities is the difference between objective achievement and being a static or decked target. All contingencies should have safety factors built in to ensure risk can be reduced to the lowest level possible. For example, if one hand is striking, the other one will always be guarding. Even when compromised, and required contingency options must be employed by means of best of dirty tricks brigade, battle-proven foul means of unarmed offensive assault or unarmed counteroffensive assault. Even the underdog chances of defeating the overdog are increased. Once an exponent has learnt all their unarmed offensive assault skills, long range and close range, the contingency options are introduced in relation to range, threat and situation and are drilled until fast mapping, assessment and decision making becomes the primary response. Under drills, skills to command training, unarmed offensive and counteroffensive assault skills are employed not only by primary means but also combined with all contingency options. From threat recognition to unexpected actions on when compromised, the employment of CQC brain to boot mental toughness and hard targeting self-protection capabilities, combined with fast mapping assessment and decision making in relation to the execution of contingency options, provides capability even in oh shit situations to regain the upper hand and achieve the objective of threat neutralization. Control is a very important term in the initiation and execution of CQC skills, including contingency options, controlled aggression, controlled respiration, maintaining of physicality capabilities for CQC actions on, making sound decisions at real time by fast mapping assessment, making primary range with commitment and uncompromising skills is essential, especially when contingency options are required because the primary decided option has not achieved the objective. For Phase 2 Advanced CQC training and Phase 3 Specialist CQC and CQB as well as MSD training, there are contingency options for all likelihoods, all changes in threat or situation as part of strategic strategies and contingencies to support primary offensive or counteroffensive skills threat neutralization. Full MSD and CQC contingencies must be included in MSD and CQC strategies as important to the execution of all skills, from the threat recognition and identification to the assessment and decision making in threat neutralization and all aspects of making range, changing position, setting a ready status, the initiation and execution of the skill, and dealing with any changes in threat or situation that may arise. These need to be taught by a highly qualified instructor to ensure the individual combatant understands and retains the contingency options required to deal with all Murphy's Law oh shit situations. This enables them to be able to fast map, assess on the move at real time, and make quick, quiet, and deliberate changes in threat neutralization. Strategies and contingencies include interfering with enemies' visual and mental focus, distractions and deception, and CQC PSYOPs, best of foul, dirty and deadly, tricks brigade, skills, setup and initiation, tradecraft training practices that prey on human autonomic reactions to deliberate actions.